And welcome to the Chief Joyce Dugan Cultural Arts Center on the Cherokee Central Schools campus. Our appreciation to Jay Winchester and Cherokee Central Schools, Chris McCoy from Tribal Communications, Lisa Frady from Destination Marketing Department, Mike Parker from the Commerce Division, Doug Pheasant, and the officers of the Cherokee Police Department. We would like to thank the school board candidates for agreeing to participate tonight. Candidates for school board seats on the Cherokee Central Schools Board of Education are from Big Y School Board, for Big Y School Board, Tara Reed Cooper and Sharon E. Bradley. Painttown School Board, Regina Ledford Rosario and Charlotte Ann Sanook. Yellow Hill School Board, Jennifer Thompson. There was Teresa Jumper Santa Maria. She has withdrawn from the race. On behalf of the event organizers, we wish you well on each of your campaigns. There will be no opening statements from the candidates. The moderator will sit at a table with a timekeeper. The moderator is the only person who will ask questions, and the questions will be from a predetermined list compiled by the Cherokee One Feather based on community feedback. The public, via social media, phone, email, and the Cherokee One Feather staff were the sources for the questions. There will also be a table and staff available for community members to write in specific questions regarding their communities or other tribal issues at the event. Community questions will be vetted for appropriateness by members of the COF editorial board prior to being brought to and read by the moderator. The candidates are not to respond to any verbal questions offered by the audience during the debate. We also ask that the audience not react audibly to any comments made by the candidates in the interest of time and in respect for the hosts and the candidates. There will be time at the end of the session for audience appreciation for the candidates. The moderator will recognize a specific candidate to address a question. Once a question is asked, each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond. Each candidate will be allowed an additional 1 minute to address any follow-up. Once formal questioning is concluded, vetted community questions will be asked. Up to 8 community questions will be asked in the 3-minute, 1-minute rebuttal structure. After questioning, the candidates will have 5 minutes each to make closing statements. When all candidates have concluded their closing statements, the moderator will thank the candidates and close the debate. Those candidates who could not or chose not to attend were invited to submit a brief statement to read in their absence. Charlotte Ann Sanook did let us know via email and text, voicemail, that she would not be able to attend tonight's proceedings. We will start with the formal questions now. Tara, you get the first question. The Eastern Band has witnessed ever-increasing drug abuse on the Qualla boundary. One of the suggested solutions has been capping the number of students in each classroom. Please provide your thoughts on this suggestion and provide any solutions you see that could help students and teachers deal with this issue. Tara?
I think for me, the capping of the students would be a great idea. The smaller the classroom, the ratio children to the teacher is the less students that they have in a classroom for one teacher. I think it would be beneficial simply because they will have time to address issues that may arise with students. However, that doesn't mean that we could just go in and make those changes to say we're putting 10 kids to a classroom. That would take more teachers, which means an increased budget in order to have those teachers and have that small ratio of kids to teachers. I think the drug issue goes far beyond that, but that would be a great step in working with the students to make sure that we're doing what we need to do as the teachers, as the school system, as the school board, to help the kids understand so that they will have someone to go to. It's either that or have more counselors that are available that specialize in those things, because in our community now, we have so many kids that come from homes that are drug-ridden that they see every day, and what they see is what their chaos becomes. Therefore, we need to provide either that smaller classroom or need to provide some more counselors that specialize in that so that we can start with the younger generation so that by the time they graduate, we've taken care of that issue.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
To me, there's not enough time for one-on-one with our children when it comes to capping. We would have to utilize all the resources that we have, even more than what widespread that it is. Our resources, I think, can be utilized more with our children. When it comes to the lower children, when it comes to drugs, I think that we need to start educating with the lower grades on prevention. And the kids, we don't know what kind of lifestyle or what kind of homes that they're living in. And we can't blame it all on the parents, because we have grandparents that are raising their children. So we have to step up as educators. That would be one of my first prioritizing, is that we look at all aspects of what our kids have as far as resources, what we have to offer, and utilize that even more.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
I think this is a hard question, because the drug epidemic on the Kuala Boundary is ever rising. We as a school system have already tried to take some steps, which we are very open to any other suggestions that we have. As far as capping the number of students, we kind of have to follow along the BIE guidelines, which is already a lower number than the state requires as well. The state can offer a waiver so that, you can say you can cap it at 18 students, but then the state can apply a waiver, whereas the BIE has certain restrictions as far as space. For instance, kindergarten, first grade have to have a bathroom and a sink in their bathroom or in their classroom. So these are some restrictions that we currently have as far as capping. And I think so the other candidates had touched on the fact that it's going to require more staff. We are already in the process and have gotten approval from Tribal Council for an expansion, which will help with some of those staffing and space issues right now. So we're getting kind of at a level where we're at max capacity at our current building. I do think that having more resources available, such as the integrative classroom that we have in middle school, we just started that in elementary as well. Trying to touch on some of these special cases so that we can touch them individually. So as a school system, I feel like we should do everything within our power to provide a safe and stable learning environment for our children. And if requiring a certain cap as far as the number of students would be a good idea. Also, what Cherokee Central Schools does that most other schools within the state can't afford to do is we have teacher assistants all the way up to third grade. With many school systems within the state, the public schools only have kindergarten teacher assistants. So, we are trying to combat that ratio head on right now, and we've got teacher assistants helping teachers all the way through third grade.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
The epidemic's not just here on the reservation, it's nationwide. Some of the initiatives I know that are being taken already to help us as far as the education system, Tina Welch has been assessing kids coming into the daycares. The last report she gave us, they had assessed every child coming into the daycare. And they found that more kids are coming into daycares at earlier ages with more serious drug problems as a result of their parents. So I think her intervention, her beginning this process of assessing students or kids who are already addicted to drugs. I've been teaching 20-some years. I'm looking at third and fourth generation kids who the students I taught their parents were doing the same thing, and these were kids we were trying to protect. So it's not something that's new to us. One of the most effective things, there's a kind of a break between what the school can actually do and what the law can do. And there was a time when we had drug court where students that were caught and that we know were users were forced to go to drug court and were held accountable to coming to school, to doing their work, to drug testing. And when that drug court was done away with, we really don't have any way, other than slapping them on the wrist here at school, calling law enforcement, any way of recouping them or getting them back on the right track. And drug court was one of those ways that kind of supported the school as far as getting them back on track. I don't think capping the classroom is an answer. Kids aren't doing drugs in the classroom. They're in the halls and in the bathrooms and secluded areas. We have made an effort at the high school, I know, to be more visible to the students, to be in the halls, that teachers get up, monitor the hallways. The SRO officers have helped. There's just no possible way, as big as this school is, to stop everything, but we have made big strides in our efforts to eliminate it here at school. It's surprising how many kids openly will rat out the drug dealers here at school and tell on them. Some things I think that would really help toward eliminating or minimizing the drug issues. A doctor that was on the crisis intervention team at behavioral health for a long time said that getting them interested and involved in careers and their things they're interested in at an earlier age will kind of steer them away from those drug issues and help them get into something that they are really interested in as far as a career and see an alternative to the drug use.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara, additional follow-up on this? 1 minute?
I think I'm good, Rob.
Okay. Regina? Okay. Jennifer? And Sharon, anything additional? 1 minute.
We do have peer counseling and group counseling for young adolescents has been proven to be the most effective way of dealing with these issues. And we have quite a few student assistance groups here at the high school. They're beginning them at the middle school. I don't think at the elementary we have any of those groups where kids can sit around and talk about the issues they have with drugs and alcohol.
Thank you, Sharon. Regina, this question is yours. Would you support year-round schooling? Why or why not?
I'm not sure about year-round school. I think the kids need a break, and I know the teachers need a break from working here. But I would look at maybe shorter hours and maybe an extra day, couple of days maybe through the months. That's what I think I would be in support of, because I think children, it's a lot. When I first come to this school system, it was November of 2016, and I came as a substitute teacher with Gloria Panther in the first grade, and she had to be the acting teacher, and all the things that she was trying to get in as far as educating, it was a lot, and that was first grade. And I really do think that shorter days may help. And like I said, an extra day, to me, I said it kind of reminded me of basic training. They shove it down your throat in 3 or 4 months and expect you to get it. But it don't happen like that. And you have a lot of kids that struggle when you do that, when you try to shove it all out there and expect them to get it. But that would be my suggestion. Wouldn't go for year-round, no, but shorter days, shorter hours, extra days.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
My answer to this question, coming from a family of educators, would have to be no. Mainly, not necessarily that the teachers need that break, but listening to my parents and my sister talk, and even my daughter who works in the school system, it's really hard to keep kids focused, especially when they're getting ready to go for a break. And then right after coming back for a break, they have to kind of get them into that routine of learning again. So with them going year round, which means that, these breaks are going to come more often, because typically the setup, I think, is, like 9 weeks and then 3 weeks vacation, then 9 weeks on, then 3 weeks vacation. To me, I feel like it would be a little bit more disruptive. Also, given our community, we work in a tourist town, basically, so I think that it would be very difficult to accommodate working schedules for those students that need to work in the summer, even for parents that need to work for finding childcare during those breaks. I think that it would be a difficult situation, but it's something that definitely needs to be looked into more. So my answer right now would be no.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
I'm a teacher, and my answer would definitely be no. However, we're probably one of the smallest schools in the state. I know we're the smallest football playing school as far as our student population. And our kids are stretched really thin at the middle school and high school levels. We have some students who are playing 3, 4, and 5 sports in addition to their other activities, whether they're in plays, whether they're in clubs, they're officers in their classes. And adding to that, the academics that they have. So we really stretch our kids thin here at Cherokee because we are small, and I think that we need that time, that some of them recuperating from injury, some of them just kind of regrouping their thoughts about what they want to do next year. I am in support of extending a couple of programs that we have here. We have Cultural Summer School. I think we could do that longer or in different sessions. We also have 4 colleges on campus here at Cherokee High School that our students are allowed to take college classes with those colleges. And I can see that would be beneficial for some of our students. I know my daughter was participating in that program. Her second semester at Western, she is a sophomore as a result of taking the college classes here at Cherokee, which meant for her better parking, which was important. So I am for extending, some of our programs into the summer for students who either want to take additional classes, maybe want to take advanced classes. I taught apparel and textile design this spring, and I could have been teaching it all summer. The kids just ate it up. I enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. They came back 2 weeks after school was out to sew with me. So there are some programs and some courses I can see that through the summer would be beneficial for a lot of our students. Like Jennifer, we're a tourist town. A lot of our students work. If they're not working, they're taking care of siblings at home for their parents. So yes and no on the extended school year.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
Change is always good. However, I couldn't support year-round. As an adult, I need a break. So I know that these kids do. The teachers, they do a really good job, and they have a really hard job because they're responsible, as well as everybody that have kids. We're responsible for growing these adults, and sometimes we need time to clear our minds. I think with year-round schooling, it would not be beneficial for our students, so I couldn't support year-round schooling. So I'm all for a summer break.
Thank you, Tara. 1 minute to follow up, Regina. Any additional? Jennifer? Sharon? And Tara. Okay. Next question, Jennifer. Area county school board members receive a fraction of the pay that CCS board members do. Would you support reducing the pay for school board members? Why or why not? If yes, would you submit legislation necessary to do so for the following fiscal year?
This is a difficult question to get, mainly because I'm the only current seated school board member. I feel like a lot of people don't really understand all of the duties and demands that we have as school board members. If the money came down to us funding another teacher position, another position within the school, then yes, I would support decreasing our pay. Many of the surrounding school systems, their school boards meet once a month for maybe 30 minutes. We meet at minimum twice a month, and our meetings usually last for 3 to 4 hours, sometimes longer. Also, at any time during the week, we could have a special called meeting. We have phone polls, we have email polls, we have several duties that require us to be here. I was one of those people that would be like, well, why do they get paid that amount of money to do what they do? And after serving for Yellow Hill for the past 4 years, I'm not saying it's well worth it, but it's definitely a second job. For most of us that are on the school board now, it's a second job for us. So we're putting in just as many hours with school-related functions and school-related activities and meetings that we do in our regular full-time job. Again, at the moment, if it required us decreasing funding to provide something for our students that we needed, then yes, I would. As being able to submit this legislature, I feel like that would have to come from the decision of the board as a whole, and me personally can't make that decision, so that's going to be something I think the board members as an entire group would need to decide and come up with, the legislature to change that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
You got me in a bad place here, because if I say yes, my boss is sitting here, and, if I don't get in, then I'm... So I do know, I will say this about our board that probably a lot of people don't realize, is that the level of work that our board has to do in relation to area school boards, most people probably don't know, but we follow all state guidelines and requirements for curriculum, for graduation, for testing. In addition to that, our school board and our school is also responsible for following all the Bureau of Indian Education mandated rules and regulations, and along with that comes testing. So the complexities of what our board does is not comparable to area. The average school board salary is $41,000, and if you look at any information online, that goes from $5,000 to $80,000 across the country, depending upon the district and the state and the amount of schools in there. So school board salaries are like all over the board. I don't even know how much they make. I don't think she makes $41,000, but and I don't know any school board member on there, if it came to needs of this school system for our students or our staff, that wouldn't be willing to give up part of their salary or all their salary. I've never known them ever to be greedy about what they get paid or even mention it. So I think that, we don't really, like she said, we don't understand the level of difficulty it is balancing also Indian preference with staffing. So we also have tribal ordinances that school board has to comply with, in addition to, like I said, the Bureau of Indian Education and the state things. And I'm sorry, but the county schools and schools around us do not have the complex issues that we have here at Cherokee. It's a good thing. So.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
I'm with Jennifer on what she commented, but this is kind of a trick question. You get into pay and you start talking about pay, and people make their decisions on how they're going to vote as to if we up or we up the pay or we take the pay away, or I'm going to vote for Tara or I'm going to vote for Sharon because this is how they answered a question. But for me, this board, we put our name in the hat because we're wanting to make a difference with our school system and with our kids. What I submitted in the paper is these children the kids at this school are our future. It's not anybody outside of here. It's these kids that are here, and we're here for them. This is an elected position, and I'm going to compare it. Some people may say, well, I don't think we should compare it, but I'm going to compare it. This is an elected seat, whereas we have other boards that are appointed and make way more than this board here. And like Jennifer said, I'm gonna go with what Jennifer said on how much they meet and how much they put into it. It's not just signing a form or looking at a budget. It's your heart and soul. I don't know that you could really measure that in pay. So I think whatever the school board amount is that they make, if we as a board, an entire board, said, you know what, our kids need something, I'd be willing to do that. I sit on a board now for the boys club that we've done that. We took the pay away. It was a paid board. We felt that it needed to be back into the boys club, therefore we done away with the pay. A resolution was submitted. Wasn't not submitted by me because they beat me to it, but we do not have that pay because we've seen a need elsewhere. But for the school board, it would be a collective decision. but it would be council's determination. They would be the one to vote on it to determine, because they determine school board pay, I think. So it's kind of a loaded question, but if it was needed, absolutely. But if we're comparing, I think we're good. It's good whatever they're making right now, because we're making decisions for our future, so.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
I haven't looked at area schools or salaries or anything like that. I've only heard what our school board, what their salary is. I'm like Tara, we're here for the kids, 100%. If we have to give up salaries to meet the needs of our children, I'm going to do that. On that note, I would like to say that I know it's going to be the board's decision, but for whatever reason that we give up money, I would like to see that money go toward the kids of this school. I have talked about, and I know it's not all about the money when it comes to our kids and the awards that they get every year. But when you have a child that gets $3 or $5 for academic excellence, I think as a board and tribal council or whoever makes that decision, we need to look at that. That's my concern. And like I said, I know it's not all about the money, but I'll be willing to give up all of my money if we give it to these kids that are struggling or that take that extra step to be given an award for academic excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer, you have 1 minute for any kind of response.
I do. I just wanted to kind of agree with what Tara said, and she brought up a very good point that as a school board, we're elected by our communities, and many of the boards that are appointed by whomever, you know, if it's council making these appointments or if it's the executive office making these appointments, their salaries are a lot higher than what ours is. And to me, that I don't want to say that shows a lot, because that's not the truth, because I don't know what those appointed positions entail. I don't know what their jobs entail. But as far as a school board, I can say that at one point we did kind of break it down on all of our responsibilities based on that salary that we get per year, and I think it's almost like $1 an hour that we get for the amount of time that we put in.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon, 1 minute.
I echo the same thing everybody else said. We're here for the students. However, the Bible says that a workman's worthy of his hire. And when you look at the dollar amount of decisions that the school board makes, I serve on one of the other free boards, the golf board. Right now, we're making a $28 million decision on a hotel and improvements to the golf course. So when you look at the enormity of the responsibilities they have, as far as, I know our students need things, but you know, their decisions they make affects every student, every staff, everybody employed in the school system. And I think whatever they make, they deserve it.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara, 1 minute. Regina, any additional? Okay.
I am one of the appointed, I have appointed position on the police commission board, and we don't get paid as much as the school board. We might get half of that, but I am on a position that's appointed on the police commission board.
Thank you, Regina. Next question, Sharon. What top 3 existing policies would you immediately begin working on, and why?
The first one, and looking over our policies in the general school administration policy, is I would like to see us go back and develop a long-term strategic directional plan for our school. We did this several years ago when Joyce Dugan was here. We've done bits and pieces of it, and while we have policies, procedures in place, I don't know that we have a real clear direction for what we want to do as a school. You know, it says in our policy we want to be a 21st century school. Well, that's 100 years. You know, I don't think that our policy is refined enough to say this is the kind of school we want to be. And I always use Raven Gap as an example. Many of you know years and years ago, it was kind of a school where juveniles went. If you got in trouble with the law, you went to school there. Over the years, they have changed and flipped that school from that type of school, because of their strategic initiatives, to a school that recruits students from all over the world. We play them in sports, and they have students from everywhere. It's the kind of school that people want to get into. And I would like to see us get a little bit more direction as far as our overall policies for what kind of school we really want to be. The second one on the curriculum instruction and testing policy, I feel like it needs to be updated. Kids are advancing, and technology is advancing past what our policies are saying. We are doing a lot of things good as far as our curriculum, but we really need to go back and look. I know the Quality Education Collaborative group that we're working on is working on accomplishing a personalized education initiative. We're a small enough school so that every one of our students could have a personalized education plan. And going back and look at our curriculum, making it a student learning driven curriculum. Not, hey, we got a person here who needs a job, let's make a position for them as this, but really looking at the needs of the students and what the students want as far as their future, and developing our curriculum around their desires and their learning habits and abilities. I also noticed in our safety and healthy schools policy, and Jennifer may can clear this up when it comes around to her, I didn't see in there where we had updated that to, I know that our security team here has worked endless hours on making this a safe school. Following all the school shootings and things that have gone on, they have really put in some really good things into place, and I have not seen that in our policy. I'm sure they have it in theirs, but, you know, updating our safety and security. And then the last one, I have to say this for our students, is our nutritional food policy. We have some policies we are just not following. When students are banned from taking pictures of the food in the cafeteria, we really need to look at doing some different things, because that's how bad some days the food were, not all days. But anyway, our nutritional policy.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
Rob, will you repeat that question?
Yes. What top 3 existing policies would you immediately begin working on, and why?
So for me, as I've grown through my life, I've learned that me as an outside community member, I can make assumptions looking in. I'm not going to know until I'm elected to be on this board to know what policies actually need to look at, compared to Jennifer, who's on the board, Sharon, who is a teacher. I don't have the insight. My responsibility as a school board is to understand what the teachers are having difficulties with. I could sit here and say by social media an assumption that the kids don't like the lunches, but until I get in there, that may not be a priority. So my priorities are going to be based on what, once I get in to look at, you know, what is the overview of things and what looks like it needs attention. Being an HR professional, my first thought is the personnel policies and procedure handbook. Is that where it needs to be? But I don't know if that is a priority. So for me, it would be based on priority once I got in. So, because I don't know what all the policies are. There may be one in the elementary school that may be more important that needs to be looked at than in the high school. So it would be difficult for me to say, being an outsider looking in, because that might not be the priority.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
I've been at this school for almost 3 years, and I'm, like Tara said, you can't judge until you work here. You have no clue what these teachers go through. You have no clue. But I think that we need to look at all the policies and procedures that's in place, and I think they all need to be looked at and upgraded. My number one priority would to be looking at all of the resources, again, that we have in this school to help our struggling kids who haven't had that IEP yet or haven't been determined whether they need SPED or anything like that. I think overall that you need to look at children, and you can look at children the first or second week or third week and to tell if they need some kind of help, that if they're struggling, utilize all the resources that we have in this school to help that child that's struggling. Number two, I think we need to have an exit interview with all the teachers that leave. And we've had some good teachers that leave. And I would want to know for myself why they're leaving. And that's why I would like to put that in place if it's not in place already. Number three, I think we should have evaluations on the administration. I think we should have the input from the teachers about their principals, about their assistants, and whoever else is in that administration. And I have more, but that would be the three that I would be looking at.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
I don't know if it's just coincidence that the board member is the last one to get this, but we, over the past year and a half, have kind of taken an undertaking of the policies as an overhaul. So we have been in the process for a year and a half of updating all of our current policies and procedures. This was something that, as an administration and the board, we thought could take a couple of months, and it's turned into a year and a half. The reason for that is, as in some of the questions prior, we have state guidelines that we have to follow, we have tribal laws that we have to follow, and we have federal laws and BIE requirements that we have to follow. So when we took on this task of updating our policies and procedures, our lawyer, our school attorney, kind of undertook this, and he's run into some issues with trying to make sure that all of these three things come into alignment. It's also difficult for a board member who our main purpose is to oversee the policies and procedures to know which policies and procedures need to be changed or updated when there is kind of a separation in power. As a board member, we should not be into the day-to-day, and this is where kind of trust comes into play, is that, we have hired our superintendent who is to oversee the schools, and basically we can give him direction, and then he gives direction to the principals, who then give direction to their staff. So until we are made aware by the superintendent that there may be a problem, we may not see anything wrong with it. And also sometimes there's policies that have never been broken before until someone breaks it, and then we realize, hey, this last was updated 20 years ago, and so we've come into, some instances of that, which is why we wanted to update all of our policies and procedures. So this coming couple of weeks, we are slated to approve the new policies and procedures, which it's in a book, a binder about this big. So if anybody wants some light reading, you can come see me.
Thank you, Jennifer. 1 minute follow-up, Sharon, on this question.
She answered one of the issues that I had, was that there's a lot of things in there that's kind of outdated that need to be updated, and I know that they were working on them currently too.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara, 1 minute. And Regina, any additional on this?
With all due respect to the school board and to our superintendent, you're not going to know what goes on in the school system. And I'm not saying that you sit in an office all day, but you need to get out and talk to some of the employees about issues. And until I started working here, I didn't see that. So that's why I'm saying all the 3 changes and policies that I would change, that's one of the reasons why I would say that we need to do evaluations.
Thank you, Regina. 1 minute additional, Jennifer. Okay, next question, Tara. Currently, all coaching positions are approved by the school board. Would you support the athletic director approving these hires on a yearly basis as opposed to school board taking on that role?
So I think that, yes, I do. If those coaches answer to the athletic director, that is the athletic director's responsibility to oversee their day-to-day and do the interviewing and the hiring and selection for that position. However, with that being said, there also has to be a process in place in order to have an effective interview and selection process for that athletic director to make sure that they're getting the best qualified candidate for that position. So yes, I would agree that the athletic director should be doing the hiring for that, and they should be answering directly to them. But if they answer to the board, that would be different. But I think that's how I would do it.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
I think it should be a dual thing. I think the more input from each individual should do the hiring. Your input, the more input that I feel, the more input that we have from each individual, and we make a decision. But it kind of have to weigh the process.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
The way the process should work is that the athletic director should bring the appropriate candidate before the school board, and the school board should simply just have to approve it. That's the way the appropriate chain of command follows, and it's mirrored a lot after the tribes, where the executive committee finally just makes the approval, and it's in our policy procedures, and this is how it works. Again, without the board getting into the day-to-day, that's the way that it should work. So we should put, in my opinion, the athletic director should be the one doing the interviews, the selection, and simply just submitting a name for approval. And the only time the board should ever, in my opinion, pull that name if there is a major concern or issue, and that it should flow easily, and so that we should make that approval, but just because that's how the policy and procedures are written to flow, and it's mirrored after the tribe's policy.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
It is my understanding, as she said, that's the way that the policy is, that now that they do, the athletic director, another coach, usually an educator, administrator is on the interviewing of coaches. I'm a coach, but I'm a teacher. You know, it's the board's ultimate responsibility to ensure that we have good teachers and coaches. And the teaching ought to be the ultimate thing that we're looking for. We're looking for good teachers who can also be good coaches. So I don't know, understand why someone sent that question in, because that's, like she said, that's the way it goes. You know, some coaching positions, we get a contract yearly. If you want to continue your position, that's pretty much what they say. If you say no, they advertise, or if for some reason they have a reason to believe that they need a change, then that's usually left up to the athletic director and administration to decide, hey, we decide we need a change in one of these athletic programs, so we need to advertise for positions. But I fully support our school board's authority to make final decisions. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Something goes wrong, they don't run to the athletic director or the principal. They go directly to the school board for answers and for help.
Thank you, Sharon. 1 minute additional follow-up, Tara. Regina, anything else? Jennifer and Sharon, anything further? Okay. Next question, Regina. it is commonplace for a Cherokee School Board meeting to go into closed session, with no report being given once it is complete. What will you do to ensure transparency at school board meetings?
I totally understand about personnel issues, that they can't be aired and you have to go into closed sessions. But other issues, I don't know why the school board can't be televised, just like tribal council. Or come in this facility right here and invite all the community members to come in and attend these school board meetings, and for the school board to answer questions if the community has issues that to them is important. So as far as transparency goes, that's my answer, that we should streamline it just like we're doing here, or even in tribal council chambers, or again in open session like we're doing here.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
Being again the only school board member here, when we do go into close, it is mainly to discuss personnel issues, and any action that is taken after that has to be made in open session. So if there's no action, it was just a discussion, and that sometimes is why there's no discussion based on the decision that we have in closed. I understand that it is a trust issue, that once we go into close, like as board members, we're bound legally by not saying anything that happens in those closed sessions. Anything that happens in open, I'm more than willing to discuss with anyone. All of our board meetings are open to the public, and there has been talk in the past of making it kind of like council where it's aired. I don't have a problem with that. I know a lot of times, however, when during the course of the meetings, there's a lot of times, as you two know, that, okay, now we have to go back in the closed, and so we have to change kind of gears. So we had discussed maybe having one of our meetings a month that was going to be all open stuff, that things that could be brought out into the public's eye that way, and then anything that potentially would have to go into a closed session, hold for the second meeting. That's kind of where it's at. As far as our transparency, we've invited the One Feather staff starting this in January to come do their notes based on our board member meetings or school board meetings. And I think they've done a really outstanding job of reporting the information that goes on there. So for anybody that can't come to the meetings, you can look to the One Feather for their report in there. So that's our way of trying to make things a little bit more transparent. But again, as the only board member here, I can say in all honesty that 99.9% of the time, things that are discussed in closed are personnel issues that we can't discuss once it comes out. But if there were an action based on that, we do make those things open to the public once it's back into open session.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
I'll just reverberate what Jennifer said. It's been my understanding and my experience with the board that anytime anybody wanted to go sit in on a board meeting, they could. It's required for them to have notes and to have documentation of all their meetings and things they cover. In addition to personnel issue, the community needs to understand that not all things are personnel issues that maybe they need to go into closed session. We have students here, we have children here, and sometimes issues affect them. And it might be, occasions where they would need to go into closed session to protect the integrity, first of all, of our privacy here with our students. But I've never known anybody that had a problem getting any information from the school board. Probably just the opposite. More comes out than probably what they would like a lot of times, but it certainly is understandable, as with any organization, that when you deal with personnel issues, that it's closed session or direct student issues.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
From what I understand, anytime that they go into closed session, it is in regards to personnel issues, or that's how it should be. I think that they do a really good job right now of being transparent. You get the notes on Facebook, you get the notes in the One Feather. Thank you to the One Feather staff for doing that, and I think they, like Jennifer said, they just started doing that. you can discuss anything except the confidential pieces that they do go into closed session for, because it is to protect the children or the employees, and it's the same thing that council does. The only difference is it is not televised, but I wouldn't be opposed to that. But speaking when asked on a situation, as long as you're keeping your part of the confidentiality, I'm not quite sure how much more transparent you could be other than televising those types of meetings, so.
Thank you, Tara. Regina, additional follow-up on this question?
My community members have spoken to me, and they would like, I think they would be more apt to come into a place like this, or even tribal council chambers, than a small individual little room up there in the central office. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer, an additional minute? Sharon?
When you talk about transparency, all of our school board and school policies, the faculty handbook, the student handbook, everything is on the school website. So I don't know how much more transparent that they can be than that.
Thank you, Sharon. 1 minute, Tara, if you'd like. Okay. Next question is for Jennifer. Jennifer, what ideas do you have that would make Cherokee Central Schools more appealing to prospective students and families?
I feel like we have a great school, and just the campus alone would want anyone to come visit us. I do have some ideas that I feel that we can do and that we have been working on. I don't know if many of you are aware, but we did sign a memorandum of agreement with the Job Corps to allow some of our students, as well as some of their students who obtain their high school diploma, for some of our students to go do some trade type activities. And this is something that I know the federal government has, currently the Job Corps remains open, but I don't think it's 100% deal that they will stay open. So if that doesn't, I would like to see us kind of venture out into more of the trade systems. We have a lot of students that don't go straight into a college type environment, and that's perfectly fine. Not everyone is set to go get a 2-year or 4-year degree, and we have plenty resources within the tribe where we would need these specific trades, plumbing, electrical, HVAC systems, auto mechanics, anything like that. And I'd love to see us open that up for more of that possibility, so that some of our kids are going to be more career ready once they graduate from Cherokee Central Schools. I can say from serving on the state board of directors that we are very blessed at Cherokee Central Schools, that we have so many more resources and so many more opportunities for our children, that I have had board members from other districts come to me like, how can you afford to have your fine arts program like you have? And I just want to say thank you to our tribal council for giving us the money to do that. So we are very blessed with all the resources that we do have. However, I know that we can improve. No system is perfect, and there's always doors to open for improvement. And so one way that I would like to see that open is to offer more trades, so that they're more career ready once they graduate from Cherokee Central Schools.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
I don't know if Concy Gertie would appreciate that question. It was my understanding we had 145 kids that were screened and approved to start kindergarten, or somewhere close to that, which was maximum for us. But our school offers more electives than any school in the state. That means overall elective classes, we have more than any school in the state, different courses. We have had students that have traveled abroad. They have traveled probably 9-10 countries. We have some now. My nephew's in Greece and Italy now. We have so much going on here, and I think what would probably make us more attractive is we don't really toot our own horn very much. I know I take kids to the merchandise mart in Atlanta. I've never put anything in the paper about that. And I think what would make us more attractive is just letting people know what's going on here. Reba Elder said not to add any more work for teachers to do by reporting to the One Feather, but she has phenomenal things going on too. She's got an autistic camp going on now. I don't know if anybody even knows that, for 2 or 3 weeks. We have one of, probably not the finest program in the state for special needs students. And it's because of people like Reba. Teachers, our staff is phenomenal. We have some staff that have been in national magazines repeatedly. Josh Adams, our wood carver, is a renowned national award-winning wood carver. He teaches in the classroom every day. He brings into the classroom the cultural aspect of that. We have been more aggressive at doing things inside the classroom, and I think people just don't know what we're doing. If they knew all the things we were doing, we would have more. I believe that one thing that makes our school attractive is we have a really diverse student population, and I know a lot of schools do too. But in addition to our Black students, Hispanic students, our Native students, our non-Indian students, we also have students from other tribes that come here specifically to be at Cherokee to participate either in sports or what other programs that we have. So we're just by far the best school in the state, in my opinion.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
I've wrote down several programs that I could see that we need, and we could sit up here for me and talk all day about all the things that we need, such as carpentry and certificate programs, farming capability, because you don't see many gardens across the community anymore because the kids nowadays didn't get what we got growing up, and I'm not old. I'm about middle-aged, so they didn't get what we got. And you don't see it a lot anymore unless it's done in the home. One of the things that I have a unique perspective because I am over the tribal HR department, and I don't look just at the EBCI. I look at the school, the Gadua Academy, and how do we partnership. What I would like to see is more partnerships from the school system, such as when kids come in, we need registered nurses, we need we need engineers, we need accountants, we need these top type positions, and we're all about promoting our Cherokee people and getting them into positions, and we're telling our kids to go to school to get their degrees and come back, but then when they come back, it's a little difficult because they don't have the experience, and sometimes experience is more than a degree in some certain cases. For me, it would be having a program to where when they start in the 9th grade, they know what they kind of want to do. They have different areas that they can choose, and we partner with the Boys Club, the casino, the tribe, the Gadua Academy, so that if somebody wants to be a fluent speaker, I can't say that they would be a fluent speaker, but that's what they want to do is teach kids in our language so that as they go through high school, during the summers, that's what they're doing is they're working for the tribe in that type of area. And then when they do it for 4 years or maybe from their sophomore year up, at their sophomore year, they have to commit to giving back once we go get their degree. Maybe we pay for their schooling for the 4 years, and they have to give 3 to 4 years of that back to us by coming back to work for us so that we can kind of grow them through our system so that we can have managers and directors and secretaries. That's one of the things that I would like to see, and it would take a lot of work, but I think it's doable because it's for our kids and for our future.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
I'm kind of like Tara. We could have all the ideals that we all have, and until we get in here and see the policies and procedures, there's not a lot that we can do. But our school, again, until you've worked here, until you take care of kids, and 2nd grade, some of them just want a hug, and they come here for a safe haven. And a lot of things that's broken with some of our younger kids that as educators we can fix, or we can try to, with those that are struggling. We don't know what's going on in the homes, but we maybe can kind of address it and maybe refer those that need help or that are struggling to different, again, I keep repeating myself, the resources that we have. I think we can implement them more, but until I look at all that, that's my answer.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer, an additional minute. Sharon, additional minute. Tara, and you're good, Regina. Thank you. Sharon, what new programs would you like to see instituted at Cherokee Central Schools?
Well, let me say first, education is not about programs. It's about people. And our central focus should be on, we make people. That's what we do here. Currently, the Quality Education Collaborative, I mentioned before, is working on the personalized education program. We call that in CTE, the Career Technical Education, we call that programs of study. The state calls it career clusters, career pathways. But studies have really shown that students who are identified in areas and that we can help them to excel will encourage them to move on through. I've been a proponent and a supporter of the programs of study for the past 8 years. One of the reasons I'm running for school board is to hope I can get it accomplished. And we're a small enough school so that every one of our students, when they leave here, will have some direction on where they're going. If it's nothing but going to tribal ed or to tribal construction, that they've got some skills to go there. Jennifer mentioned our collaboration with the Job Corps. The job force is changing. It's not anymore full college degree people that the job force is looking for. It's people who have some skills. I'd like to see a recruitment and retainment policy in this school for the staff that develops our own people here, preferably our people who've come through our school system, to identify them, to say, hey, you know what, have you thought about administration? We have had some phenomenal students that have come back to work here. Some of them have already moved into teaching positions. Some of them need to be encouraged to move up to administrative positions. We've only had one person in this school that I know of in the past 20 years that I've been here, an enrolled member in administrative position. Key position, administrators, principals, assistant principals, curriculum and testing development. We do have some now in central office. But you know, it is my desire to see our students that have come through this school step up and be leaders in this school. And until we get that, nobody's going to have the heartbeat of this school like they do. Which leads me to my second thing is I really believe that we need to beef up our cultural curriculum. Our culture needs to be embedded in every course. And when I say embedded, I don't mean just one day say, hey, these are Cherokee plants, you should know what they are. You know, in my courses, I have the state objectives. The last objective is where are we as far as our tribe, whether it's business law, our tribal court systems, and I try to embed that in every class that I have. One reason we can't do that is because our staff is not educated as far as our culture enough to even do that. And I would like to see us do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
I would like to see more certificate programs such as carpentry, electrical programs, things such as that are implemented. Things that our kids, and you see it across the news everywhere, kids aren't always geared to go to four-year colleges. They want to go get a certificate and come back and work, and those are needed just as much as a four-year degree. So I would like to see that implemented. And then I would also like to see more emphasis on our language and traditional type classes so that we can form that partnership for the kids that come from the Kadua Academy to the Cherokee school system. There's not that big of a gap. And plus, that's another way that we can start bringing back or revitalizing our language. So those are the types of programs that I would like to see.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
I would like to see, as far as the elementary school, the lower grades, an alternative classroom for the kids that hasn't been tested yet. for the SPED program, because you have those kids, some of them that are overwhelmed and are disruptive, but not in a bad way. So with an alternative class like the SPED program, we would have that class for some of our kids to go to that are struggling. And like I said, you don't know until you work here what teachers that are trying to teach in the classrooms, and you don't have enough time in the day to do a one-on-one with behavioral issues when they haven't been tested. That's my.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
I'm going to answer this one a little bit different because I think a lot of us kind of touched on this topic with the last question. I don't necessarily would like to see that we, at the moment, need to really add more programs other than the ideas that we currently had, but I would like to see us enhance our current programs. We have several good programs that are working, and if you talk to these teachers and individuals, they have dreams of how to expand and grow those positions. So I feel like we should put our resources currently into programs that are currently successful. She has her entrepreneur class and her design and clothing, and I've had students come to say that they really love that and they want to expand on that even more. We have Mr. Yannetti and his amazing fine arts program. One of his dreams is to have that full pit orchestra, not with people from the North Carolina Symphony, but with our own students doing those instruments. So I would like to see just us enhance the current programs that we have and give all the support that we have to known individuals, known teachers, known educators that have put their time and effort into this, and support them instead of trying to start something new. Because once we build these programs, other things are going to come along the way.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharing an additional minute on this? Tara, an additional minute on this? Regina? And Jennifer. Next question, Tara. Bullying is a nationwide problem in schools. What ideas do you have to help curb this problem at Cherokee Central Schools?
I'm pretty sure our school system has a zero tolerance bullying policy in place. I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen it, but I would like to think that they do. I'm a big believer in there's consequences for actions. And for me, bullying is a huge issue. It's not just within our school system, but it's outside our school system, in workplaces, in the community, in other communities. It's all over the place, like you said, nationwide. For me, there's got to be consequences for their actions when it is happening through that policy, but it has to be enforced. If it's not enforced, and by not addressing the issue as they grow older and get to become adults or high school students, it'll just continue. So I wholeheartedly believe that there has to be consequences for actions, but it's a zero tolerance, and we have to stand on a zero tolerance. But at the same time, we live in a world of chaos, and a lot of people, there are reasons why they're doing what they're doing because they've seen it be done at home, or they've grown up in that type of environment, and that's their chaos. Therefore, it's our responsibility not to say, well, there's a consequence, but we're just going to put you out on the streets. We can't have you here in school. We can't do this. But we also have to provide a way to understand why this individual's doing what they're doing, and we have to work with them one-on-one. And I'm sure it's difficult, but that's our responsibility as educators to these children to understand what that root problem is and what's causing that issue. And it may be something that's deeper, that may require counseling or professional counseling or things such as of that nature. So for me, that's what I would do for the bullying.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
Through experience with second grade, I find that SRO officer, when they come in the room, it gets everybody's attention. I don't think that one individual should handle all the discipline problems. I think, again, we need to utilize resources. What's that child going through? What his life is at home. Through some of our kids, the first week, the second week, you're going to know if you have a bully in your class, or if you just have somebody that just likes to aggravate someone. But through utilizing, whether it's Anna Lanishki or Mr. Auer's room or somebody to address the behavioral, if it's constant, I think we should do that. But again, I think we should look at SRO officers, whether they do the discipline or whether they address their behavior. And not only that, but I think depending on how many times that one child has got written up, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 times, at some point in time, I think you need to maybe bring the parents in and to ask, what do we need to do as a overall to address the problem?
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
I would love to be able to tell everyone and have the answer to this, but I don't. I feel like our school system does try to do the best it can, and I know that there are always things that we can do to improve. Our no bullying policy, I know for some parents that they don't think that that's the case. For what I would like to say is that I would like to just say education, encourage kids to keep reporting it, to find someone that they can trust, to go to report it. And, for parents or community members that feel that there's still a problem out there, please let school officials know, because, like I've had, a couple of staff members here, their eyes can't be everywhere, and sometimes they don't know that things are going on, especially in, in elementary classroom settings. So I think education is the key. Just letting everyone know that they have a voice and that it's okay to speak up if they feel like they are being bullied. And it's our job as adults to try to make sure that this is being handled in an appropriate way. Again, like Tara mentioned, that it happens all around us. It happens in our workplaces. It happens in our communities. Sometimes it probably even happens in some of our families, so if people will just be, use their voice and speak up, I think as a community we can kind of combat this bullying situation together. It's not something that's going to go away overnight. And again, I wish I had the answer to this question, because I feel like it's a very common question, not just here in Cherokee, but all across the world.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
Well, there's a difference in bullying and just having a school fight. Sometimes some girl just steps in on somebody else's guy and they get in a fight. Bullying is it's a behavior that's identifiable early, just like Regina said, even as early as daycare, that some child exhibits aggressive behaviors. There's risk assessments. There's all kinds of surveys that you can give students, that you can give kids at an early age. I think one of the reasons we built this school was so that we would be out of our silos. And part of that communication, following a student through to say, in elementary they displayed these behaviors, in middle school the same thing. And a lot of times teachers are not aware of those students and the issues that they've had previous to that just all of a sudden pop up at high school and they're seen as a bully. But I think that communicating with each teacher, you can say parents, but we have them 8 hours a day, 180 days a year, is watching them and being present, being aware. Like Regina said, sometimes the kid just needs a hug. I do believe that our staff needs more training and better training on conflict resolution and on awareness, being aware of what's going on. You hear a kid say something, sometimes you'll go a few years, and I used to have a student, he'd come to me every morning, this is going down today, and he'd tell me what was going on. But most of the time, our students will tell you what's going on if you're not watching. Other things, you know, you got to appreciate the bully too. He's got some issues. And, you know, what we have tended to do is just continue to do to him what he's done to everybody else. Beat up on him, throw him in ISS, throw him out of school. That's not helping that person. So identifying these aggressive behaviors early on as best we can, and kind of monitoring that as they move through our school system and trying to direct them to some positive things. I will say at the high school, in the past probably 2 to 3 years here, we have created an environment where students feel comfortable to come up to me and say, Miss Bradley, so-and-so says they're going to get me. And I think all of our teachers, probably maybe happening at middle school, I don't know about elementary, that students feel safe in reporting to a teacher that, hey, this person I feel like they're bullying me, and they feel confident that when they report that we're going to do something about it. And 99% of the time at the high school, when we report that, it goes down. They get called in, and I feel like Craig Barker has done an exceptional job of bringing both parties in and trying to resolve that. You know and I know there has been bullying going on this reservation since I was in school, the same families fighting each other. So, you know, we know that, but I think being aware, wrapping our arms around the bully, helping him too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Additional follow-up, Tara. And Regina, Jennifer, Sharon, anything additional? All right, that takes care of the formatted questions. We'll go to the community questions now. First one will go to Regina. Regina, considering the life of our language has been declared in a state of emergency by Tri-Council, would you support integrating the Cherokee language into all classrooms?
Yes, I would. And again, I think it starts from pre-K to kindergarten on up, that we need to start utilizing everything that we need to as far as our language and heritage.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
Yes. I feel that we need to incorporate this in every possible way. We also need to provide extra training and stuff for our staff and our teachers, because as well, I'd love to have everyone, an enrolled member that can speak the language work here. I know that right now that's not possible. So for staff and teachers that aren't from Cherokee, I feel like they need that training as well, so that they can incorporate that language into their everyday classroom also.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
That's really tough, because I've been here all these years, and every year I say, this year I'm going to learn the Pledge of Allegiance. But you know, when you're in the classroom, it's a difference in being able to say words and really converse with somebody. And we can, in the classroom, we can use words. Hopefully we can put them into sentences, but to be able to speak conversively, you know, our cultural department here, it needs to be a goal of theirs. That, hey, in 5 years, we're going to graduate 5 kids that can sit and converse with each other. Students that I took to tribal council one day were amazed at a conversation going on, people speaking in Cherokee. So there's a difference in learning some words, and it is difficult for those of us who are older, and it's difficult for our teachers who are not local and who are not native, because they don't really care. I'm just going to tell you. We do have some at the high school that really make an effort to put words into their curriculum. And they try hard, but they're not going to get to the point where they can speak it conversely. It needs to start, like Regina said, down in the lower grades and continue on through where they, by the time they get to high school, are able to go into a complete room without any English at all spoken.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
Rob, will you repeat that question, please?
Sure. Considering the life of our language has been declared in a state of emergency by Tri-Council, would you support integrating the Cherokee language into all classrooms?
Absolutely. I think that is needed. It would have to be a slow process of implementation. I myself am trying to learn the language, and I have been for a while. I probably could do more than what I'm doing, but it's not an easy language. Our kids are brilliant kids, and the younger they are, the easier it seems that they catch on. So it may be that they catch on quicker than me as an adult. However, I do agree that it does need to be implemented into every classroom so that, as I was speaking earlier about the bridging that gap between the Gadua Academy and the Cherokee school system, so that it's an easy transition for them as well. So yes.
Thank you, Tara. Regina, additional Bennett, Jennifer, Sharon, and Tara. Okay. Next question is Jennifer's. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for American Indian and Alaska Native youth ages 15 to 24. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide as their straight peers. If elected, what would you do to make sure our children who identify as LGBTQ feel safe and supported at Cherokee Central Schools so that none of our youth become one of those statistics?
I think this question may go back to kind of some of the bullying, and I feel that if we kind of just recognize everyone as individuals and we learn to accept people for who they are and not necessarily the classification that they want to become, that it's going to make our world a better place. I would like to say that I would love for our students to feel that their comfort zone in Cherokee Central Schools, that they can have teachers or friends or someone that they can go to, that if they are feeling kind of down and discouraged because of a certain thing, that they can help provide them with some education or some counseling or things like that, whatever they need. I also feel like part of this, and this really is an answer to the second part of that question, but as far as just the suicide rate, I feel like mental health awareness really needs to be on kind of the top of our agenda for the school systems, because for many times the young adult, age 13, 14, 15, 16, these are when students start to develop some of these characteristics, and I think that for training for all staff, if they're starting to pick up on that there needs to be an easier process to get that child into some type of counseling or some type of help if they feel that they need it. Again, that isn't to answer the second part of the question, but mental health awareness in general needs to be on the top of the agenda. So I feel like if we incorporate that and people feel safe within their own skin, that it will help combat some of those other insecurities, I guess you could say.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
Would you read that question one more time?
Sure. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for American Indian and Alaska Native youth ages 15 to 24. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide as their straight peers. If elected, what will you do to make sure our children who identify as LGBTQ feel safe and supported at Cherokee Central Schools so that none of our youth become one of those statistics?
I can say this about the high school population. They're different. Our kids are different. And, anybody that comes to this school system and thinks that they're the same as non-natives is mistaken. They think different. They are different. And I said that because they are very embracing of other people with differences. I wish people could see how our normal student body interacts with our special kids, even our severe ones. And I don't know if I've seen any kids really bullied or taunted for being different as far as the LGBT. One of the things that I would encourage or would like to see implemented more is the enhancement of our student assistant program. Reba Elders runs that. Support groups, student support groups, students who have the same issues can be in the same groups. We've had a traumatic year this year with deaths among students and staff. And these support groups, the student support groups, are students that sit around and they counsel each other. When you think you have it bad, you realize somebody's got it much worse than you do. I've been through a death this spring myself. I thought I had it bad till one of my students said, I realized her grandmother had died. 3 weeks later, her mother died. And so the issues facing our youth as far as suicide and anything being different is best resolved within themselves. when they have friends that are like them. I'm not saying that they're all different, but they are different. Athletes are different. All my golfers are all different. You can put them in a room together and they can talk to each other. Put them with another group, they hardly have anything to say. So I really believe in the peer, the student support groups, the program that we have going here. I don't know, I know they're trying to move it on down to middle school, and I don't know about elementary, but research, medical physicians, everybody has shown that that is the best type of counseling for students, is the peer counseling.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
Man, these all kinds of loaded questions tonight. This is a real controversial question and answer, and for me, all lives matter, regardless of, you know, what you are. And in our community, people tend to, if we don't address the situation, it's not there. But this isn't going away. It's always there, and our responsibility is to make sure every child is taken care of and they feel like they have the support that they need, and they need to be able to feel safe. And we provide all of these resources for everything else. I think we should be providing resources for these children that feel or that think or that know that this is the community that they belong into, which is the LGBTQ community. It's not saying that I condone it, to say, yes, go do it, go be this, go be that, to each their own. However, we still have to support them and give them those resources, whether it's, you know, a counselor, or do we support a group where they can go and have that feeling of safety and secure, because they may not get it outside of here. But I don't think that just turning a blind eye to it, that it's going to go away, because that doesn't take away the issue or the problem or the thing that's there. And it's a really touchy subject because people don't really like to talk about this. But for me, it's in our school systems, and we have to provide those resources for these children so that they feel safe and secure.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
I've noticed in this school system overall, we have good kids. We have good teachers. We have a lot of staff that will listen. I have an autistic grandson, and I couldn't ask for any better teachers than what he has right now, to take him and talk to him when he's having a bad day, or when he's overwhelmed, or he doesn't see why this other child is not listening when you're supposed to be listening. But that's a mindset of an autistic child. Our kids accept other kids. They don't care. They accept other kids are who you are, what you are. And it's the same with the teachers. Most of our teachers listen, and that's what I like about most of them in the elementary school. They listen. I founded our Child Advocacy Center here on the reservation because as a 19-year retired law enforcement officer, in the 10 years that I investigated and prosecuted people for child abuse, I see our kids falling to the wayside. And that was my priority, is that we need a child advocacy center after visiting other centers. Cherokee is the first Native child advocacy center in history. There are others that come after, but I'm proud to say that through the federal system and the people that I work with, the Cherokee Police Department, that we have a good investigative team now. And it takes a certain person to address things when our kids are having a day or having a problem for what they're going through, whether it be in the home or some other place. Again, I'll say that the school is a safe haven. A lot of our kids feel like it's a safe haven for themselves.
Thank you, Regina. 1 minute, Jennifer. Sharon?
I will say we're blessed with this school. Some of the logistics of the issues with LGBT students are, we have 150-some bathrooms. It's not an issue, you know, kids don't even notice. Occasionally, you know, administration will say, this student's allowed to use the teacher bathrooms, and that's usually a big deal. It's a big deal on field trips, especially if you have students who fall into that category. But, you know, PDA, the policy is the same whether it's for the LGBT kids or just our normal kids, and it's enforced at the high school.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara, an additional minute? Anything further, Regina? Thank you. Next question, Sharon. Are you willing to step away from an abstinence-based health education curriculum? Please explain your answer. Would you like me to repeat that? Are you willing to step away from an abstinence-based health education curriculum? Please explain your answer. Abstinence-based health education curriculum.
I'm for any kind of health education programs that has to deal with sex education. Of course, I'm a Christian, and I'm a proponent of abstinence. Worse than getting pregnant is getting a disease that you'll never get rid of the rest of your life. So that's not realistic in all situations, but it's been realistic for me and for my family and for a lot of other families. So I think, you know, letting kids know, hey, everybody's not doing it. You know, the curriculum needs to address all those. Hey, you don't have to participate in this. I do know how much sex education our students have got at the high school, and it's not been a lot. And I know that we need it, and we need it from medical, you know, our medical professionals to come in and talk to our students. It's not always comfortable for teachers talking that book. But you know what? The students will talk to you about it. They will talk about it. So I'm still not sure what that question meant, but I am in support of abstinence if any way possible. I'm not stupid. I've been teaching 20-some years. I was a teenager once myself, but it's not realistic to think that they're not going to participate in, if that was what the question was. I'm an abstinence for all of it, alcohol. Oh, getting away from abstinence?
Yeah. Are you willing to step away from an abstinence-based health education curriculum?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm still not sure.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara? No? Tara?
I'm not quite sure that I understand what they're asking. Repeat that question for me,
Sure.
please.
Are you willing to step away from an abstinence-based health education curriculum? And then it says, please explain your answer.
Abstinence-based health education. I'm kind of like Sharon. When I hear this question, I go back to when we were in school, and again, that wasn't long ago, you know, and I just need to put that out there. But we had gosh, what was it called? It was across the road at the old Civic Center, the teen clinic. That's where we also had sex education classes. And I think this is what they're asking in this question, so this is how I'm going to answer it. If it's not, I have nothing for you. But we had a teen clinic, plus we had sex education classes, and it talks about all of the things that Sharon just mentioned, diseases, pregnancy, things such as that, and I think that is needed in our school system. I think it was a great tool for us as we were in school when we had that teen clinic, but it was also a place that we could go when there were issues that could be talked about and dealt with. I'm not quite sure why that went away, but I think for me, I think that's needed in our school system more now than we've ever needed it. So,
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
Well, I have 5 teenage boys, if that answers your question. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
I feel that it's important to educate on all standpoints. Obviously, abstinence is the best way to be the safest. But I feel like in this day and age that our kids need to know that there are ways that they can still be safe. I agree with Tara in the fact that the teen clinic was a place that for high school students and middle school students, we could go and get that kind of one-on-one education if we needed it. And in the plans for the expansion is to bring more of that like youth health center back. So I know for the school nurses that they also help provide some of that education. But again, I feel like it's important that there's education in all realms. Obviously, to stay away from certain things may be the best choice, but for some kids that's not a choice. So they need choices, again, to be safe. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon, a minute of follow-up.
Yes, the QEC, I don't know if Jennifer's aware of this, the QEC we have been working with PHS, and that was a great need. And the reason the teen clinic went away is because the school moved. It wasn't the teen clinic. Several things logistically happened. And as Jennifer said, the school is looking into a health center here. We know it's desperately needed. And like I said, we are coordinating with PHS to work that out.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara, minute of follow-up. Regina and Jennifer. Sorry to make y'all struggle through that question, but I wasn't going to explain it. I was not. Tara, would you support creating a curriculum that is geared toward learning trades instead of preparing for college?
yes, I would. I think that it's needed in our school system, and as I stated before, that is one of the things that I would support having is those types of programs. Of course, still having the program where we have kids that do go to the four-year colleges, but we absolutely do need that, yes.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
Yes, I would support that in all aspects. Whatever our kids can choose, that's what I would be for.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
I think I already answered this question once. But yes, I would support a trade type of school system so that our kids are prepared more for work type related fields. Again, I really liked one of Tara's answers when she said that we need that training so that kids know maybe what they want to go to, even if it is a 2-year college or a 4-year college, because we need to know within our own communities what health care opportunities there are for jobs. And so I think that there's ways that we can incorporate a trade into that. Currently we have our health occupations program where they can be CNAs when they leave high school. But I think for our male population, we do need another alternative because there's not that many options to go straight into the workforce that we're able to provide at the moment. So carpentry, electrician, HVAC, plumbing, all those types of things are needed within our community and within our tribe. So I would support kind of a trade program.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
I'm going to oppose that because all of them supported it. And the reason is because you said that word instead of college, right?
That's what it says,
Okay.
instead of preparing for college.
I would like to see our school become more balanced. We'll have all these initiatives for STEM. I'm a career and technical education person. And so my question was, why do we not have money for career and technical education things? And that's because somebody's not writing the grants for it. So we just, after you've been here for 20 years, you go through these phases and you're like, oh man, we did that 15 years ago. So I'm really a proponent for balancing out those things. We do need the trades. I would like to see us partner with the Eastern Band to have some of their certified licensed teachers come in, do a work for 6 or 8 weeks on plumbing, bring their electricians in, but also, and I know all of them are too, supportive of the college initiatives too. So I'd like to see us balance out just a little bit more all of our initiatives instead of just really going one direction towards science, technology, engineering, math. And I'm like, what about all the guys that's working at tribal construction and water and sewer? So I think there needs to be a balance in our initiatives.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara, additional minute. Regina, additional minute. Jennifer? Any further on this one, Sharon? All right. Last question. Regina, if you could change anything about our school system without having to worry about resources, what would it be?
Change. Positive change. That our kids would know that when they come here, that there's somebody here that cares, and that somebody here that's going to be respectful. Just working with kids here, there's a lot of things, issues that go on, and I know we have kids that need mentoring. I know we have kids that need to be taught, and that's what we are, educators. But you have to be the educator when it comes to respect, teaching, mannerism, all that. But that our kids come to this place and know that they're safe and that that we can help them in any way we can, that we can do that for them. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Regina. Jennifer?
Will you repeat the question?
Sure. If you could change anything about our school system without having to worry about resources, what would it be?
The answer would be space. I would love to be able to, just in like the blink of the eye, put all the things that we need currently here. As a board, we tried to do that with the expansion. You know, we didn't want to just keep adding one classroom a year at a time. But currently, it's 5 years down the road. You know, so elementary needs space right now. We had the most pre-K kids ever to apply to our school, and we had to turn some away. So for me, it would be space. It was very important to us in that where a child typically starts school is typically where they finish. So for us, the thought of having to turn several pre-K kids away because we just didn't have the room was really heartbreaking for us. So for me, it would be space. Like I said, we've tried to incorporate enough space so that all three school systems are going to benefit from the new expansion. All three school systems are current space needs that they so desire. You know, if anybody wants to come and look at the plans that we've kind of set out, I know that they're, you know, open to change within the next 5 years. But, you know, like our home ec department, it's going to grow. Our musical theater program is going to grow. The elementary is going to grow by a whole pod, you know, 28 classrooms, because that's what we're going to need. You know, so if it was something that I could change at the moment, would be the space.
Thank you, Jennifer. Sharon?
I would like to see us change the way that we advance our students through the system. I truly believe, I know when we started QEC and we started discussing some of the issues, it's kind of fierce. And I'm like, middle school, you're sending me kids up here can't read. Middle school said, elementary, you're sending us kids can't read. Elementary said, we're getting kids in kindergarten that's not ready. So after several battles of this going on, one thing I would like to see our tribal initiative do is to say, we want all our kids to be on grade level at whatever cost it takes. If that means a 6-week intense summer school and bring the specialist in, Sylvan Learning, whoever is the specialist, is to really keep our kids on their grade level. Because as they move through, and the further they get behind, that's when we start seeing behavioral problems. We start seeing all kind of academic issues going on. And it may be, Jennifer mentioned space, it may be that we say, okay, this year every kid's going to be on grade level or they're not moving on. It may be that at one place at the third grade, we have 300 kids in third grade. But I think until our education system, it's not just our system, it's all school systems, say, okay, we want to make sure that every EBCI kid is on grade level before they can advance. If they're not there, then let's get them there. And that's part of the BIA's initiative, or the BIE's initiative, the ESSA Act, the Every Student Succeeds Act, that came down from Washington, is that every student needs to succeed. And the only way that we're going to do that is, you know, by the time they get to high school, if they're at this point where they're reading on a 5th or 6th grade level, they have problems. They have issues socially. They don't want to read in front of people. And I would really like to see us draw the line somewhere and say, okay, next year, this is what's going to happen. If you don't pass these grades, and it happens all the way up, if you don't meet all the requirements, then you're not moving up. And the other thing I'll say for my students is our nutritional stuff here at the school. And I mentioned that before. My only campaign promise is that I would get Chick-fil-A for lunch. We've had Pizza Hut. It was whole grain pizza crust, but you know, the kids hate Michelle Obama. She took their salt and pepper away. Their kids are not even allowed salt. You know, and they're like, can you sneak us some salt? So, you know, we have athletes at the high school level who need salt, and their proportion of their meal that they get for free is the same as a 2nd and 3rd grader. If they want extra milk, they have to pay for it. If they want an extra chicken sandwich, they have to pay for it. So I'd really like to see us do something about our food here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
You said if resources were not an issue, correct?
Yeah, if you could change anything about our school system without having to worry about resources, what would it be?
I would say more teachers with better pay. And we have to take that as one. We can't take it as two. It's got to be one. More teachers with better pay, not saying that they're not getting good pay now. However, it's always an issue across the board anywhere you go that teachers aren't paid, because we're putting our children's lives in their hands, and they're going through our school system, which would in turn, if we brought in more teachers with better pay, have smaller classrooms so that they get that one-on-one attention, which could address the issues that we're dealing with, but that could also provide that safe place, safe, secure place, which would in turn give them more educated and better prepared for the world. So I think that my answer, if it was one thing out of a million things that we could do, more teachers with better pay, which in turn gets us more educated and better prepared children for the world.
Thank you, Tara. Regina, a minute follow-up. Jennifer, Sharon, and Tara. That concludes the questioning. You each now have up to 5 minutes each to make closing statements. And Jennifer, you're first.
I'm not going to take 5 minutes. I just want to thank the Yellow Hill community for electing me for the past 4 years as your Cherokee Central School Board representative. I really enjoyed this honor and this duty, and I hope to continue to serve my community well.
And Sharon? Thank you,
I think we've covered a range of things. I'm kind of with Regina on here. We're about students here. We're about people. And some days are not easy. They're not easy emotionally some days for teachers. But I think our school really needs to get where we let students lead the learning, where we let students say, I want to be this, or I want to be this, or I want to learn this. And we have the resources to do that through our college courses online. Many people don't know about Sam Marr's program. He's been doing this 10 years, and I think in that time period, maybe 2 kids have failed those college classes. The majority of them finished with A's and B's. So letting kids tell us, what do they want to know? We know the things that they have to know, but letting them dictate to us what our curriculum needs to be and what kind of teachers they want. We have some very good teachers. We've got some really poor teachers. We've got teachers whose heart and soul's here, and we've got teachers who on Friday night are down there at Swain County cheering against our kids, and they see them. And if you think a student don't know if you're in the audience or not, I thought when my daughter graduated, I'd get to stay home on Friday nights, but I haven't. I've been at every basketball game, every football game, and if I miss one, you know what they'll say? How come you wasn't at the game? And some teachers will say to me, well, they don't know if you're there or not, but they do know. And one way that we show that we support them and that we feel like that they belong here and we belong here is to support them in everything they do, whether it's at a church thing, whether it's at a chorus singing, any place that we can go. And I'll say this about our board. I see them at just about every function that we have. And my goal is to be supportive, whether I'm here or in the classroom, is to support our kids and to make sure that we have a staff that at least takes the Swain County stickers off their cars when they come into our parking lot.
Thank you, Sharon. Tara?
We've been asked a lot of questions today, and there's so many more things that our school system probably needs to be addressed. And these are just the small things that we've talked about today. But for me, I appreciate everybody and everyone that works at this school system for the time and the effort that they give to our kids. Because if it wasn't for them, what would our kids have? I appreciate the funding that our school receives and everybody that supports this school system, simply because we have to work as a community, as one, to work on all of the issues that we have that's going on in our school system. And for me, it's about the kids, because these kids are our future, and they are the ones that will grow, and it's our responsibility to teach them what they need to know so that they are prepared for the better world. So thank you to the One Feather for having this debate for this school board. I appreciate you guys and what you put out here, because this is a part of how we make it transparent what's going on inside the school, and what every individual up here has put their name in the hat to be a part of this school system so that we make it better. So thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Regina?
Since I started at this school, I have been all about security. And Jennifer knows I've come to them about things. I said we should have the most safest and secure school in Western North Carolina. I've been advocating for an armed police officer at the guard shed. None of our security officers are armed. I think people think twice when they see a police officer, an armed police officer, anywhere. I talked about when I was on the first grade level, how one day I seen all these people coming through the hallways, and I asked, where are these people coming from? Oh, there's a door that's open down there. So I addressed that with Miss Coker, and she took care of it. The door wasn't even being monitored. I don't want to say anything more than that. It bothers me when teachers, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, and some in middle school, tell me that their kids can't read. That bothers me. And we can, again, blame all the parents or the grandparents that are raising their grandchildren, but we're the educators. And there's no excuse for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade kids not to be reading on that level, on their level. I think that needs to be addressed. Whether, again, if we have the resources for one-on-one, or like Sharon says, after-school program, things like that. But to me, it's an issue when our kids can't read and they push them on through the grades. That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you, Robert, to your staff and whoever else. Thank you for allowing me to come here. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. We'd once again like to thank each of you for your participation and your willingness to serve. This concludes the 2019 Cherokee One Feather election debates for Tribal Council, the Executive Office, and the School Board seats. And it concludes the 2019 debate series. We encourage all tribal members, regardless of who you vote for, to make your voice heard in the 2019 tribal elections. Exercise your right to vote. Thank you and good night.